Newton's third law of motion is for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Same thing is for life, and especially storytelling in D&D. For every action your players take, there is an equal and opposite reaction, a consequence to their actions. What's up, everybody? My name is Talon, and I am your humble dungeon master. And in today's episode of DMing 101, I am going to be covering consequences for your players. I want to preface this firstly by saying that consequences are neither a good thing nor always a bad thing. Generally, whenever we think of consequences as people in today's society, we think a consequence is bad. But that is not always the case, and nor should it be, especially whenever it comes to your campaign and your setting. A couple examples of a good consequence. Say a town is having trouble with some goblins. The goblins are attacking their farmers, thus reducing the crops that the town is creating, starving the people inside of it. So they hire the adventurers, your players, to deal with these goblins. Your players kill them all, completely wipe out the goblins, salt the earth even, because they're players, they'll do that. And from then on, maybe the people will have more food, more merchants are going to come through because more food is being made, and more money is going to start circulating through that town, so perhaps prices will drop. Another example of a good consequence is, say your players help a merchant on the side of the road. Perhaps that merchant then gives them a discount next time he sees them. Good consequences are also a form of reward for your players, but not directly, hence why consequence. Consequences generally are something that happens to the setting and the world and the NPCs that your players cause, whether it is positive or negative. That is what a consequence is in my book for Dungeons & Dragons. That could be different for yours. Like I said, consequence could be a reward, like the merchant giving a discount. Whenever you are thinking about impacts on a setting and the people that live in that setting, you want to, personally, I start large. Like, okay, what kind of economic impact does this action have? What kind of impact on the kingdom's economy does killing all these goblins here have? Well, more merchants are going to go through that area, more food is going to come out of those farms, more people are going to be fed, and the guards will be better to defend themselves from any attack from, orcs or goblins in the future, thus not requiring the player's aid unless something bigger happens. From there on, I start thinking about the people in that area, the NPCs that I have created. How is this action the players are taking going to affect them? Well, they'll have more food and more money to spend on merchants and to save up and perhaps get a new house, or maybe a new bow or a new horse. Maybe they can afford another child or new clothes. There's some small ideas. Whenever you flip this on its head and start thinking about negative consequences is when things get interesting, because then you bring the possibility of creating entire new adventures and plot hooks and villains based on the consequences of your players' actions, the negative consequences of your players' actions. One such example is your players killing somebody and then a family member of the person that they killed, like say they wipe out a cult. Well, this father's son was a part of that cult. As far as he knew, it was just a regular religious group. And that father then trains up in the sword and starts hunting your players. Or maybe your players screw with a crime syndicate, and then the crime syndicate starts sending assassins out to them and starts really pushing their agenda onto the rest of the setting. Another idea to think about consequences in a way that you can use them as a dungeon master is what I like to call the consequence of inaction. Consequence of inaction is simply where problems that your players are given that they don't act on grow in severity over time. A recent example I actually have of this is my players were tasked with clearing out a cult in this village, in a number of villages. There were 5 villages in total, and they went systematically one by one and cleared them out. But based on which village they went first, the other villages got worse. The cult's power on them grew substantially over time, the longer my players took to clear those other villages, until it got to the point where at the last one, it was an almost deadly encounter. A really good time to bring consequence, whether good or bad, in and have them rear their ugly head, so to speak, is whenever it makes sense in the story or in the setting itself. If your players leave a cult alone, perhaps that volcano they were worshipping and sacrificing people to actually explodes. And then the players are going to have a totally different situation on their hands to deal with. And that is an example of consequence of inaction. Another way that you can really hammer in negative and perhaps positive consequences into your players' heads, and that their actions actually have an impact on the world they are exploring and adventuring in, is that it affects something in their backstory. It is important, I'm going to say it one more time, it is important for consequences, whether positive or negative, to have an impact on something in the player character's backstory. Let that sink in. I'll give you a second. All right, has it sunk in? Cool. So, with that said, the best way to do this, and honestly the most common one, and one that I am fully okay using and highly recommend you use if you need it, is someone in their past, in their backstory, dies. Family member, brother, sister, friend, whatever. Someone dies. It's a good one. Someone's taken hostage. Also a good one. Their family home is destroyed. Also a good one. It's a ton of different things you can do. Their family suddenly gets really prosperous. They get lucky and a merchant picks them up. It's like, hey, I will sponsor you. I just need you to work your farm and I will pay you double what other people are paying you if you only sell to me. There is a really good thing for that player character's backstory, for the people in their backstory and in their characters' lives. Just some food for thought. That is all the time I have for tonight's episode. Is rather of a quick one, but hey, that's fine. Quick fire facts to get you on your feet. Possibly you're watching this mid-game, I don't know. Maybe you're watching after or before. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy this. Just a quick reminder that I totally forgot to do at the start of the video. I stream on Twitch every Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Links and everything down in the description box below. So come drop a follow. Ask me any questions when I am live, and I will be your aid. I swear. I love it. And I love D&D stories and answering questions that you guys have. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, yada yada, usual shit. Bye-bye.